the people in the group were R&B and pop. There were not only black people in the group, and there were not only guys in the group. There were guys and girls and black and white. So you get all that input. So you get all that sound.
Sly had his fingers in many musical pies, which all became one big pie with Sly and the Family Stone.
Jerry Martini is the guy who really started it. This guy, he plays saxophone in the group now. And he came to the radio station and decided that, Sly, you ought to be the leader of this group. I was doing fine at the radio station, I thought.
Please do not forget, subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the notification bell to be notified when we upload next. It is with both sorrow and gratitude that we remember Sylvester Stewart, better known as Sly Stone, who passed away peacefully on June 9, 2025 at the age of 82. His family shared that after a long struggle with lung disease and other health issues, he spent his final moments surrounded by his 3 children, a close friend, and extended family. In mourning his loss, they also celebrated the music and messages he shared over decades, music they believe will continue to inspire people for many years to come. He was born in Denton, Texas in 1943. As a small child, he moved with his family to California. There, church gatherings and gospel singing filled his earliest memories. From about age 4, he sang in a choir with his siblings. This early music made him feel the warmth of shared voices and the power of song to bring people together. These experiences in church shaped his view that music could lift spirits and bind hearts. As he grew into his teens, he explored sounds beyond the church. He listened to rhythm and blues on the radio, he heard early rock and roll, and he felt the pull of soul music. Living in the San Francisco Bay Area in the 1950s and early 1960s brought him into contact with many styles. He began to work in radio as a disc jockey, choosing songs and speaking to listeners. This role taught him about what moves people, rhythms that invite dancing, lyrics that touch feeling. He also spent time in recording studios, studying how microphones, mixing boards, and layering tracks shape sound. In these places, he learned to treat the studio as an instrument itself, trying different effects, blending voices, and finding new textures. By the mid-1960s, he felt a strong urge to gather musicians who shared his vision. He sought not only talent but a sense of unity. He invited his brother Freddie and other players, aiming for a band that included men and women, black and white musicians. That time, such mixing was rare on popular stages. He believed that the idea of togetherness should show not just in lyrics but in who made the music. Thus, Sly and the Family Stone took form, a group whose very makeup told a story of inclusion. When they stood on stage, their presence whispered that differences can blend into harmony. Behind the scenes, they worked to hold that unity, though life's challenges sometimes tested it. In performance and recordings from the late 1960s, listeners heard something fresh, grooves so strong that bodies moved without thinking, and voices woven into rich patterns carrying messages of hope. A song that invites dance to the music is more than a beat. It is an open hand offering shared joy. A song like Everyday People speaks simply but firmly. People are alike more than they differ, and each life has value. These words, set over energetic rhythms, reached many hearts. They offered an escape into dance and a reminder of common bonds in a world often divided. One of the defining moments came when the band played at a large festival in 1969, an event that drew thousands seeking freedom and unity. On that stage, Sly's voice rang out clearly, and the band's tight rhythms and spirited singing felt like a sudden surge of hope. People in the crowd felt they were part of something larger, a shared experience of music that called for togetherness. After that day, many saw the group as more than entertainers. They saw messengers of a vision in which music could break down walls as it filled the air with sound. Behind the scenes, Sly's role extended into guiding arrangements in the studio. He would layer multiple vocal tracks, making harmonies that felt like a choir united in feeling. He would lock bass and drums into grooves that felt alive, then add guitars or keyboards that colored the mood. He treated each recording session as a place to experiment, adding echoes, adjusting tones, or trying unusual rhythms. His attitude encouraged others to think of studios not simply as places to capture performance, but as labs for invention. Over time, these ideas influenced many artists in funk, soul, disco, and later in other forms of music that sample or remix older recordings. Yet alongside the bright creativity and success, Sly faced personal struggles. The demands of fame, touring, and recording weighed heavily. He turned towards substances, seeking relief or inspiration, but these habits grew harmful. Friends and bandmates spoke of missed shows and unpredictable actions. The same restless spirit that drove his bold ideas sometimes led him into risky choices. Over years, these challenges strained relationships in the band, and by the early 1980s the group broke apart. Though they parted ways, their music remained, a body of songs and albums that continued to inspire listeners and creators. In later years, Sly withdrew from constant public view. He lived quietly for stretches, though he made occasional reappearances that surprised people. When he surfaced at an awards gathering, many felt a rush of joy to see him again. He released new music now and then, but health issues and the weight of past struggles limited major comebacks. His lungs and general health declined, making singing and touring harder. Still, his creative impulse persisted. He wrote, he reflected, and he shared when able. In 2023, he published a memoir that told his own story in his own words. He wrote about singing gospel as a child, about forming a band that embodied unity, and about the thrill of creating songs that moved many. He also wrote honestly about his battles, addiction, the pressures of fame, and moments he regretted. Readers found the memoir honest and moving, gave a fuller picture of a man whose music they loved. Through his words, people saw not only the stage star but the human behind the legend, someone who felt joy and pain, who learned and grew, who sought to understand his journey. Shortly before his passing, he completed a screenplay based on the memoir's story. He envisioned scenes of childhood singing in a small church, of early rehearsals with siblings and friends, of recording sessions filled with laughter and tension, of moments when success felt like lifting off ground, and of darker days when struggles threatened to undo him. He hoped that sharing this screenplay someday would help people see his life's arc, the highs of innovation and the lows of human frailty. His family announced their intent to share it when the time felt right, viewing it as another way he shaped the telling of his story. On June 9, 2025, he passed away peacefully at age 82, surrounded by his 3 children, a close friend, and extended family. In his final days, those around him saw a quiet strength and a longing for connection. His family's words spoke of sorrow at losing a father, yet also of gratitude for the music and memories he left behind. They found comfort in knowing that songs born of his vision would continue to reach hearts and minds far into the future. After news of his passing spread, tributes came from many directions. Musicians recalled how hearing his records as young artists opened their minds to new possibilities, to blend styles, to speak honestly in song, and to gather diverse voices. Producers described how studio techniques he championed shaped their own work. Fans shared personal stories, a dance where his music felt like a celebration of unity, a late-night listening that soothed sadness, a memory of singing along with friends in a crowded room. In these stories, his music lived on as a companion through life's moments. Educators and cultural storytellers saw chances to bring his life into teaching. Music students studied the structure of his songs, how simple phrases over strong grooves can hold deep meaning. Production classes explored his layering methods and his openness to play in the studio. Social studies lessons highlighted how his integrated band paralleled hopes for equality in society. In hearing his story, students learned that creativity can both reflect and shape the world, and that artists need support as they navigate the demands of creating and living. Efforts to preserve his work grew urgent. People sought out unreleased recordings, rehearsal tapes, and personal notes that might reveal how songs took shape. His family and those managing his estate weighed how to share archives responsibly, mindful of privacy and respect. Plans formed for exhibits showcasing instruments he played, photographs capturing early performances, lyrics with handwritten revisions, and multimedia installations evoking the energy of live shows. Such exhibits would allow people to step into his world and understand the era and spirit behind the music. Around the world, his songs found fresh expressions. Radio programs played special segments featuring his most influential tracks, often paired with reflections on how they spoke to unity and hope. Musicians in distant lands arranged versions of his songs in local styles, blending traditional rhythms with his funk grooves. Scholars in various countries explored how his messages of everyday unity resonated with their own social challenges. These global responses showed how a song about common human bonds can cross borders and cultures. Communities organized tribute gatherings. Some held concerts where bands covered his songs, inviting guest singers to bring new voices. Others hosted listening parties where people shared memories of first hearing his music, of dances and protests where his voice rang out, of times when a lyric offered comfort. Online memorial spaces appeared where fans posted photos, messages, and remembrances. These shared acts of remembrance affirmed how music can create connection, turning personal loss into collective celebration of a life that enriched many. Within the music world, his struggles prompted deeper talks about artist well-being. His battles with addiction and health urged industry peers to consider how to better support those facing similar pressures. Conversations touched on mental health resources, counseling, and community networks to help artists maintain both their creativity and their health. His life story became a prompt to build systems that honor artists as whole people, not only as performers. Meanwhile, his music continued to reach new ears. Streaming platforms recommended his songs to listeners curious about the roots of modern sounds. Young artists sampled his rhythms or referenced his melodies in new works, weaving fragments of his recordings into fresh songs that spoke to current themes. In this way, his creative spirit flowed forward. Grooves he shaped decades ago found life in today's music, reminding all that strong musical ideas can transcend time. Family members shared stories that humanized him beyond the stage. Moments in quiet rooms with children, memories of early days singing with siblings, simple joys and worries he voiced in private. These recollections revealed the father and brother behind the legend, adding depth to public understanding. By sharing these personal sides, they invited empathy, a reminder that a star's brilliance often coexists with vulnerability. Plans for posthumous releases took shape with care. Remastered editions of classic albums were prepared to bring clarity to the original recordings while preserving their spirit. Box sets of alternate takes, live performances, and unreleased sessions were considered, with notes explaining how songs evolved and what context shaped them. Proceeds were often guided toward causes reflecting his values, such as music education or support for artists' health, so that his legacy could benefit others. The screenplay he left behind drew interest from filmmakers wanting to tell his story on screen. Careful discussions began about adapting it into a film or series that would honor both the creative triumphs and the personal struggles. Those involved aimed to portray his life with honesty and respect, showing the excitement of discovery along with the weight of challenges. They hoped that viewers would come away with a fuller understanding of the man behind the music. Educational gatherings honored his life and methods. Conferences examined his rhythmic inventions and production approach. Seminars explored how his integrated band model mirrored social movements and how simple lyrics could carry deep meaning. Workshops encouraged young creators to blend traditions and speak truth in their art, inspired by his example. Panels addressed how to support creative people in mind and body, learning from his history. Philanthropic initiatives emerged in his name. Scholarships for musicians from underrepresented backgrounds honored the inclusive spirit he championed. Programs for artist wellness, offering counseling and health resources, sought to prevent struggles like those he faced. These efforts aimed to turn lessons from his life into positive support for future creators, helping them pursue innovation with both freedom and care. Over time, anniversaries of his birth, album releases, and his passing prompted renewed gatherings. Each year, fans shared playlists, memories, and reflections on how his music shaped their lives. Listening sessions compared original tracks with later reinterpretations. Concerts and online events brought communities together, showing that his songs still unite people in shared experiences. Scholars continue to explore archives, interviewing those who worked with him, unearthing rare recordings, and writing about how his work fit into larger cultural shifts. They examined how gospel roots combined with secular sounds to reflect African American musical traditions evolving in new contexts. They studied how his band's makeup challenged norms and inspired future artists to embrace diversity. In these studies, his life and work served as a rich case for understanding creativity and social change. In everyday life, his songs remained companions. People played them when seeking energy or comfort, danced to them at gatherings, and shared them with friends and family. Parents introduced them to children, telling stories of how the music once captured hopes for unity. Teachers used them to illustrate history lessons or musical ideas. DJs mixed them into modern playlists, showing how grooves from long ago still move bodies today. His life story also highlighted the value of recording artists' own voices. The memoir he wrote and the screenplay he completed offered his perspective, guiding how future generations would understand his journey. These first-person accounts reminded us that hearing an artist speak about their experiences enriches our grasp of the music and its meanings. They encourage artists now to share their stories, helping preserve cultural history with honesty. Though his voice has fallen silent, the echoes of his music continue. Each bass groove, each layered harmony, each lyric calling for unity remains a living thread connecting people. When someone hears a Sly Stone track and feels lifted or finds hope, they honor his legacy. His life teaches that blending traditions, gathering diverse voices, and speaking simply yet powerfully can create art that endures. It also reminds us that supporting artists' well-being is vital so that creativity can flourish without exacting undue cost. In reflecting on his journey, we hold both the brilliance of his innovations and the lessons of his struggles. We celebrate how he showed that music can unite differences, how he treated the studio as a place of play and invention, and how he wrote songs that invited joy and reflection. We also remember how addiction and health issues weighed on him, urging us to care for creative individuals as whole persons. By honoring both sides, we keep his memory full and honest. As future generations discover his music, they will find rhythms that make them move, voices that speak of common humanity, and sounds that blend past and new ideas. They may not know all the details at first, but over time they will learn of the child who sang in a small church choir, the visionary who formed an inclusive band, the artist who broke musical rules, and the person who faced hardship yet continued to create. In this unfolding understanding, his legacy lives on, in each moment when music invites connection, in each act of blending traditions, and in each effort to support the well-being of those who bring art into the world. In simple words, Sly Stone's life reminds us that music can be a bridge between people, a place for joy, and a mirror of hopes and struggles. His story shows both the power of creativity and the need for care. Though he is gone, his songs play on, in living rooms, dance floors, classrooms, and studios, inviting each listener to join in a chorus of unity. In every beat that moves us, his spirit endures. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to daily updates and never miss a video.